Hello, beautiful souls. Today's video is all about love, connection, and the little things that make relationships bloom. Oliver meticulously packed his suitcase, placing each item with a careful precision. He surveyed his surroundings, his gaze darting across the room's corners to ensure nothing was overlooked. His fingers sifted through the contents of his robust briefcase, confirming the secure placement of vital documents. Content with the meticulous arrangement, Oliver decided to make a phone call. Lifting the receiver, he dialed his mother's number. "Mom," he began, his voice carrying a note of excitement. "I've finalized my flight details. It's scheduled for 7 p.m. tonight." His mother's voice resonated warmly through the phone, brimming with both affection and concern. "How are you, my son?" she inquired. "Everything seems to be falling perfectly into place." Oliver replied, a touch of surprise underlying his words. "I didn't anticipate such smooth sailing." "That's truly wonderful news," his mother exclaimed, her voice radiating pride. "You've acquired the skills to manage any of our family restaurants." However, her voice wavered momentarily. "I still can't quite grasp why that birthmark bothered you so much." Oliver's laughter broke the ensuing silence. "Well, Mom," he began, a mischievous grin forming at the corner of his mouth, "I know you consider me the most handsome man on earth, birthmark or no birthmark." His mother's laughter joined in, a melodious and pleasant sound. Okay, I won't bring it up again," she conceded. "I'll always honor your choices. Just remember, we're all eagerly looking forward to your arrival here." Oliver's heart swelled at her words. "I'm equally thrilled to see all of you, Mom. I've been missing your home-cooked meals." A tinge of nostalgia colored his voice, conjuring memories of familiar tastes and comforting warmth. Following the conclusion of the call, Oliver gently replaced the receiver, a wistful smile gracing his features. An entire year had elapsed since he had last tread upon the soil of his cherished hometown. The yearning for his roots had nestled itself profoundly within his heart, intensifying its grip with the passage of each day. The truth was, departing from his home was far from his inclination, but the familial enterprise necessitated his presence. He comprehended the imperative of broadening and fortifying their gastronomic realm, recognizing that his personal engagement and unswerving commitment were indispensable. Oliver was acutely aware that to invigorate their esteemed ancestral eatery was paramount. The swiftly evolving currents of the culinary domain, intertwined with cutting-edge technologies and innovative marketing methodologies, posed a genuine threat to its survival. He recognized that complacency was a privilege they couldn't indulge in, especially as the culinary industry hurtled forth at a relentless velocity. Though Oliver's concerns might have been magnified, for their family's eateries were, indeed, lucratively thriving, his aspirations exceeded the mere preservation of the status quo. Oliver's aspirations were imbued with a yearning for distinctiveness, a yearning for the exceptional. He sought to mold an unparalleled niche within their culinary enterprise, a realm that would be unequivocally their own, unattainable by anyone else. A year earlier, the familial council had arrived at a consensus: Oliver would voyage to foreign lands to deepen his comprehension of the culinary trade. Yet, his sojourn across borders wasn't fueled solely by entrepreneurial ambitions. It was kindled by a profoundly personal impetus. The imperious requirement to address a prominent birthmark that had encroached from his brow, perilously proximate to his eye. This potent impulsion to seek medical redress overseas lent an unforeseen dimension to his impending odyssey. The birthmark had recently commenced its gradual advance onto his upper eyelid, and its presence wielded a profound impact on Oliver's self-assurance. Despite its fundamentally innocuous character, he found himself growing increasingly self-conscious about it. His father bore a matching birthmark, albeit slightly smaller and less conspicuous. As time unfurled, both kin and comrades acclimated to its existence, hardly acknowledging it anymore. It metamorphosed into a mere attribute, ordinary and seldom a topic of discourse. Although Oliver had adjusted to his birthmark over time, much like his father had, his patience wore thin. The desire to blend in, to conform to societal norms of appearance, held sway over him. He yearned for liberation from his distinguishing mark, to unveil a countenance untouched by nature's unconventional brushstrokes. Every detail was meticulously orchestrated with the surgeon, and on the designated day for Oliver's birthmark removal surgery, the doctor abruptly proclaimed a hunch that it should remain untouched. "I can't quite explain, Oliver. There's a peculiar sense that we shouldn't tamper with it." Stepping off the airport shuttle, Oliver finally set foot in his cherished ancestral abode. Despite the mere passage of a single year since his previous departure, an overwhelming wave of nostalgia engulfed him. Familiar corridors evoked a powerful longing in his heart as he traversed the well-worn paths of his childhood domicile. Each nook of the house was steeped in memories, every artifact resonating with the echoes of his past. Later, they congregated within the snug embrace of their living room, nestled amidst the comforting embrace of familiar furnishings and family portraits. Oliver commenced recounting his experiences from his sojourn in Korea, spinning tales brimming with newfound wisdom, escapades, and personal evolution. Every anecdote he shared served as a testament to the myriad lessons gleaned from his overseas expedition. Oliver's father, Henry, was duly impressed by the insights his son relayed. He recognized that Oliver's endeavors were meaningful, an earnest endeavor that transcended mere revelry or idle pursuits. The family dialogue gracefully shifted towards Oliver's impending role within the familial enterprise. A question lingered in the air, laden with curiosity. "Where would you like to commence?" came the query. "Which of the restaurants do you wish to oversee?" Oliver responded with a serene smile, pausing momentarily to gather his reflections. "Dad," he began, "I still believe there's much I need to grasp. Hence, I'm contemplating starting from scratch. Additionally, I'd prefer to withhold my true identity from the staff." Henry, his father, raised an inquisitive eyebrow in response to this uncommon entreaty, a faint trace of amusement dancing at the corners of his lips. He was taken aback, yet palpably proud of his son's humility and resolute yearning to genuinely comprehend the business. Striving to temper his pride, Henry responded, "Really? Well, that's quite an intriguing choice. I suppose it does have its merits. It'll certainly afford you a distinctive vantage point." After a brief pause of contemplation, Henry proffered a suggestion. "Perhaps we can address two challenges simultaneously. The team at Pine Tree Restaurant is relatively nascent. We've had to undergo substantial replacements. Some hurdles have arisen, making it a potential starting point." Continuing his train of thought, Henry proposed, "How about commencing as an assistant to the manager?" Oliver affirmed with a flicker of determination in his eyes, "That sounds reasonable. I'm committed to steering Pine Tree Restaurant towards success." As father and son delved further into their discourse, Rachel, Oliver's mother, sat in proximity, her countenance adorned with a gentle smile. She gazed in quiet wonder at the tableau before her, her husband and son engaged in discourse as equals, evoking the semblance of seasoned businessmen. A tide of gratitude surged within her for the familial bonds she cherished and the growth she had borne witness to. Henry, attuned to her smile, queried with a note of intrigue, "What prompts your smile, dear?" She responded with a gentle smile, her voice softening as she said, "Oh, nothing much. I'm just captivated by the sight of both of you. It feels like only yesterday that Oliver was a little boy. And now, here he is, discussing business with you. But don't mind me, carry on with your conversation. I'm going to rest now. It's getting late, and I need to rise early to prepare breakfast for both of you." With those words, she relinquished them to their dialogue, her heart brimming with affection and pride. On Oliver's inaugural day at Pine Tree, his responsibilities were relatively light. His primary charge was to shadow the manager, Levi, and chronicle his observations. Although only a few years his senior, Levi exuded an air of authority. His assured demeanor and the dignified poise he maintained hinted at a man well versed in the significance of his role. "All right, Oliver," Levi declared with pride as they toured the establishment and reviewed its established procedures. "Ensure you take thorough notes. We stand as one of the finest eateries in town." Unable to suppress his curiosity, Oliver inquired, "Pardon me, Levi, but I've come across murmurs that the restaurant hasn't been faring well lately." Taken aback, Levi retorted, "Who told you that?" "Likely baseless tales sown by our rivals. Our operations here are meticulously structured." He paused, his words trailing off, capturing Oliver's attention. Maintaining an unbroken gaze, Oliver inquired further, "Only if." He let the question linger, inviting Levi to elucidate his unfinished thought. Levi, however, dismissed it with a wave of his hand and said, "Don't mind that. It's always more enlightening to witness than to hear. You'll comprehend soon enough." In that moment, Levi's attention shifted to a scurrying worker across the room. "Where are you off to, Mia?" he called out. "You can't simply take breaks whenever you please." Startled, Mia halted abruptly, her cheeks tinted with a flush of embarrassment. "Oh, I wasn't really taking a break, Mr. Kelly. I was actually looking for you." Levi appeared taken aback. "Looking for me? I'm standing right here, and you walk past me as if I'm invisible. What's the matter?" A glint of resolve flickered in Mia's eyes. "We received some spoiled produce today. We'll likely need to discard at least half of it," she informed them. Levi exchanged a knowing smile with Oliver. "Well, our newcomer heard that too. What can we say? You'll soon grasp it." Turning back to Mia, he inquired, "What about the other half? Is it salvageable? Can we use it?" Mia affirmed, "Yes, the other half is fine." Confused by Levi's response, she attempted to argue, "But Mr. Kelly, we could have paid a bit more to acquire better quality, fresher produce." Levi dismissed her concerns. "Mia, focus on your duties. Don't meddle in matters you don't comprehend. You're a cook's assistant, aren't you? Assist the chef. We don't need your unsolicited advice." Mia walked away, her eyes reflecting her displeasure. Levi turned back to Oliver. "She's young and inexperienced," he remarked. "She's inexperienced in business matters. Some individuals tend to only focus on issues," Levi commented dismissively about Mia. Oliver, while not entirely sharing Levi's viewpoint, inquired, "Don't you think she has a valid point? If we invest a bit more in slightly expensive yet fresher produce, wouldn't it be more financially prudent for the restaurant in the long term?" Levi listened to Oliver's query, a grin curving his lips. "You know, Oliver, there's a facet you're not grasping. Cheaper for whom? Precisely, for the owners. But for us, it translates to additional labor and complications. Do we get extra pay for increased efforts? Absolutely. What about reduced efforts? You guessed it, no. And as for the owners, they're already so affluent, they don't need further riches." Walking alongside Levi down the corridor, Oliver ruminated on the day's occurrences. He pondered his father's confident assertion about replacing restaurant staff with superior and more efficient personnel. However, based on his observations that day, it appeared that these new workers, particularly the manager, might be less competent than their predecessors. He discerned a divergence between his father's perceptions and the tangible reality, a divergence he was resolute about bridging. Oliver's thoughts returned to Mia. Her words had struck a chord with him, and he found himself replaying their conversation repeatedly in his mind. Her genuine concern for the restaurant's effectiveness and quality resonated with him, aligning more closely with his own perspective than Levi's dismissive demeanor. By the close of the week, Oliver had encountered Mia only once since their initial interaction. During this instance, she was embroiled in another debate with Levi, this time concerning the meat's quality. Her resolute dedication to upholding elevated standards was palpable, intensifying Oliver's intrigue in her outlook. "Mia, are you actively attempting to secure your own dismissal? Can't you simply perform your job and refrain from commentary?" Levi's voice reverberated within the kitchen. His patience was wearing thin due to Mia's recurrent critiques of the restaurant's operations. Unfazed by Levi's outburst, Mia retorted, "Go ahead and fire me, sir. I'll take my concerns directly to the owners." Levi was visibly taken aback by Mia's audacious rejoinder. After regaining his composure, he retorted with a mocking sneer, "Is that so? Well, Mrs. Braveheart. Do take care on your way back from the boss's office." Oliver understood the need to intercede. Despite the potential jeopardy of exposing his true identity, he couldn't remain passive in the face of Levi's overt threat. His sense of fairness and concern for Mia's well-being impelled him to step forward. "I don't believe it's appropriate to address her in such a manner," he intervened firmly, his voice resonating with composed authority. Levi pivoted to confront Oliver, his eyes aflame with unbridled anger. However, perceiving the shifting dynamics, he chose to withdraw, leaving the room without uttering another word. The subsequent day, as Oliver concluded his shift, he espied Mia awaiting the bus at the stop. Although his car was parked a block away, the notion of driving didn't even cross his mind. Instead, he embarked on the walk to the bus stop. As he drew nearer, Mia caught sight of him and greeted him with a radiant smile. Prompted by her welcoming demeanor, Oliver instantly engaged in conversation. "He's quite a character, isn't he?" he remarked. "He's quite the character," Oliver commented, alluding to Levi as they converged at the bus stop. "I hope you don't take his words too seriously," he added, aiming to provide her with reassurance. Mia reciprocated his concern with a grateful smile. "Thank you for standing up for me." For the ensuing 10 minutes, while they awaited the bus, they engaged in casual conversation centered on their workplace. Oliver initiated this exchange by asking Mia about her role in general terms. When the bus eventually arrived, Mia boarded it, under the assumption that Oliver was anticipating a different bus. To her astonishment, he followed her onto the bus. "Are you taking the Evane bus?" Mia queried, taken aback. "This is my bus. I disembark on the east side," Oliver replied, although he had no inkling of the bus's destination. Mia chuckled. "You should have done your research. This bus doesn't head to the east side." Their shared laughter permeated the bus. In the spirit of spontaneity, they resolved to alight at the subsequent stop and continue their journey on foot. That day served as a catalyst for the burgeoning friendship between Oliver and Mia. It marked the inception of an unbreakable connection, with the two always finding conversation fodder. Their shared interests seemed limitless, ensuring a constant stream of topics. Their bond grew organically, nurtured by a plethora of shared escapades and a mutual reverence for each other's viewpoints. On one of their habitual walks home from work, Mia chose to unveil her experiences of dealing with Levi's apparent aversion toward her. This instance of shared vulnerability stood as a testament to the trust and ease they had cultivated in their friendship. "We certainly hold differing viewpoints on many matters," Mia began, her voice wavering slightly. When Levi assumed the role of manager, he developed an inflated sense of self-importance, expecting everyone to bow to him. To exacerbate matters, he began treating the female staff as his possessions. "So, I did what anyone in my position would do." Mia noticed Oliver's rapt attention, a silent encouragement for her to continue. "I once hit him with a wine bottle," she blurted out. Oliver's eyes widened in astonishment. "What? Why? What prompted that?" he asked, taken aback by the unexpected revelation. "Well, he grabbed my arm and said something really distasteful," she explained. Oliver pondered Mia's words for a moment, striving to formulate an appropriate response. When he couldn't conjure a more fitting reply, he shared his candid sentiments. You know what, Mia? I'm not surprised you did that. People like him need a reality check, whether it's a wine bottle to the head or a serious wake-up call. One day, they found themselves seated on the restaurant's patio. Mia excused herself briefly, rising from her seat and heading elsewhere. Oliver, could you please stay here? I'll be right back. I'm expecting someone, Mia inquired before vanishing from sight. Although unanswered questions swirled in his mind, Oliver opted to wait patiently for Mia. A short while later, he didn't have to wait any longer. A boy appeared around the corner, casting cautious glances around him. His attire was far from fashionable, one might even hesitate to call it suitable. He halted in front of Oliver, gazing up at him with hopeful eyes. "Hello, mister. Do you happen to have any leftovers today?" the boy inquired with a voice that seemed mature beyond his years. Mia emerged from around the corner, her expression tinged with concern. She held a plate of food in her hand. As the boy devoured his meal, averting his face from them, Mia noticed Oliver's quizzical look. Sensing his curiosity, she began to recount the child's story in hushed tones, ensuring not to attract the boy's attention. As Mia unfolded the story, it became evident that the boy had been a frequent visitor to the restaurant for a while. However, his visit ceased for several months after a customer's complaint reached the management's ears. Mia's narrative continued, recounting an incident when Christian had been seated on the restaurant's doorstep. On that day, a man clad in a white suit appeared before Christian. Instantly, Christian rose and extended a plastic cup to him. The man's response was one of obvious repugnance, accompanied by a sharp outcry. "Stay away, you little urchin. Don't dare soil my suit," he growled at Christian. In spite of the man's demeanor, Christian maintained a faint smile as he gazed at him. Christian offered a quiet apology, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'm sorry, sir. Could you possibly buy me some food?" The man blatantly disregarded Christian's plea and hastily retreated back into the restaurant. Fuming with exasperation at the absence of security or a designated person to deter the homeless and beggars from an upscale dining venue, the man demanded, "Call the manager." Levi, alerted by the disturbance, hastened over to the disgruntled customer. His priority was pacifying the man and safeguarding the restaurant's reputation. "You won't encounter that young beggar again, sir. I give you my word," Levi assured him, a note of urgency evident in his voice. As the suited man exited, Levi's attention shifted to Christian, his gaze assessing him. Christian's appearance made it evident he was living on the streets, his attire tattered and soiled, his odor suggesting a lack of recent hygiene. The sight of Christian, coupled with his present predicament, stirred a sense of disgust within Levi. He struggled to fathom how parents could allow their children to reach such dire circumstances. "Hey there, boy. What brings you to this place?" Levi inquired, his stern countenance unchanged. "Could I have something to eat, sir? Or maybe a bit of spare change?" Christian entreated, his voice tinged with hunger and desperation. "Why did you pick this spot? Can't you find another place to beg?" Levi's words were steeped in irritation. "I don't know, sir. I come where it smells nice. The food here must be really good," Christian responded, his eyes alight with innocence. Levi's expression shifted upon receiving the compliment aimed at the restaurant, his ego momentarily gratified. "The food is exceptional here because I run this establishment, kid. Now go away and never come back. If I ever lay eyes on you here again." Levi's voice bore a tone of threat as he issued his warning. Dismissing Christian with a dismissive wave, he watched the boy depart and disappear around the corner of the building. There, Christian spotted a kitchen worker transporting bags of refuse through the rear door into the alleyway. When the worker left, Christian hastened to the stack of discarded bags. He sifted through them, rapidly identifying containers holding unconsumed or expired food. As he rummaged, Mia emerged for a break and some fresh air. Upon seeing the boy rummaging through the trash, Mia's heart swelled with compassion. "Hey there, little one. Are you searching for something to eat?" she called out. Gently, Mia inquired, her voice carrying warmth. Christian's head jerked up in a start, his eyes wide with fear, poised to flee at the slightest hint of danger. Recognizing his trepidation, Mia swiftly positioned herself in front of him, impeding any escape route. With reassuring hands extended, she spoke, Hey, it's all right. No need to be scared. I won't harm you, okay? Just stay where you are. I'll bring you something to eat, all right?" Christian, his relief palpable, offered a silent nod, his small shoulders easing their tension. Mia approached the chef with an unusual plea. "Chef, could you prepare your signature dish for me?" she requested with a touch of urgency in her voice. The chef, mid-task and somewhat taken aback by the timing, looked puzzled. "For you, Mia? Now?" Amid the lunch rush, he inquired, brow furrowing as he wiped his hands on his apron. "Yes, boss," Mia affirmed resolutely. "It's important." The chef, accustomed to Mia's adept maneuvering within the kitchen, placed trust in her judgment. Though an unanticipated request, he recognized that Mia wouldn't make it without valid cause. Thus, he nodded, commencing the preparation of the dish, his faith in Mia unwavering. Mia reappeared with a plate laden with a variety of food. For the ensuing 15 minutes, Christian perched on the chilly pavement, fully engrossed in the feast before him. He ate leisurely, savoring each morsel, his expression reflective of his appreciation. Undoubtedly, the flavors were the most exquisite he had ever encountered. As he consumed each bite, the typically weathered lines on his face softened, granting respite from his daily hardships. Aware of the need for caution, Christian avoided drawing undue attention or arousing suspicion. Aware of his good fortune in receiving these meals, Christian was cautious not to appear overly greedy and risk losing this lifeline. Thus, he adopted a pattern: he would wait a few days, attempting to appease his hunger with meager scraps sourced from elsewhere, before returning to the restaurant. Each time he reappeared, his countenance would light up at the sight of Mia approaching with a plate of sustenance. Despite the uncertainty that shadowed his existence, these moments offered solace and a modicum of warmth. Gradually, Mia discerned that food wasn't the sole desire propelling Christian's return. It wasn't merely his hunger that drew him back time and again, it was companionship he sought. More than sustenance, he longed for human connection, someone who would acknowledge his presence and lend an ear. Sitting in quietude, Christian absorbed Mia's narratives with wide eyes, listening intently to tales of the restaurant and her life. He eagerly shared fragments of his own experiences, deriving solace from the simplicity of conversation. His unfeigned and genuine interactions cast a fresh light on Mia's daily routine, transforming her anticipation of these moments into eagerness. His buoyant spirit, despite his circumstances, resonated deeply with Mia. Gradually, she began to perceive Christian not merely as a homeless boy, but as a friend who hungered for kindness and care. She felt honored to fill that role for him, even if only for a few hours sporadically. While she couldn't revolutionize his situation overnight, she could furnish him with a secure haven when life turned harsh. Determined to assist Christian within her means, one meal at a time, Mia drew from her resolve. Originally hailing from a small town a few miles away from the city, Christian's life there had been marked by adversity. Owing largely to an abusive mother, his father had vanished from his world when he was but a child, leaving him in the sole care of his mother. Christian's mother, ensnared in the grip of substance abuse, frequently directed her anger toward him. Her outbursts, tainted by bitterness, often escalated into acts of physical aggression. This hostile home environment was an ordeal no child should endure, but for Christian, it constituted his grim reality. Fatigued by unending fear, he confronted the formidable decision to flee, believing any refuge would be preferable to the loveless and perilous residence he knew. Christian's resolve to escape stemmed from a conviction that life beyond his mother's roof held more promise. In the familial equation, his younger brother, Evan, played a part. Their mother incessantly pitted them against each other, habitually extolling Evan's virtues while belittling Christian. Evan wasn't necessarily a paragon of virtue, but their mother's compulsion to undermine Christian manifested through favoritism toward Evan. This dichotomy was relentless. Evan was perpetually lauded, while Christian was subjected to statements like, "Why can't you emulate your brother?" or "Evan is never a bother like you." A continuous psychological assault, these comparisons gnawed at Christian's self-worth, leaving him feeling perpetually inadequate despite his strenuous efforts. The town's well-intentioned observers occasionally recognized the plight Christian endured. In these instances, his mother staged contrition, promising to improve her treatment of her son. Regrettably, these pledges of change proved transient, the cycles of abuse resuming shortly after each return. Each time, Christian found himself once more on the streets, fleeing a place that had never truly been a haven. Christian's father was a shadowy figure in his life, more rumor than reality. Though aware his father existed somewhere, his presence in Christian's life was ephemeral. Christian possessed no memories of him, no photographs to gaze upon, no letters to read. Tangible remnants of his father's existence were absent. His mother, often under the sway of inebriation or agitation, sporadically mentioned him. Mentions of a man who was neglectful, unaffectionate, and who had deserted her peppered her discussions. The tone was invariably suffused with resentment and fury, creating a far from favorable image of Christian's father in his mind. Over time, Christian managed to glean a few fragmentary details, piecing them together to form a patchwork of his father's identity. His father's physical attributes mirrored his own, a tall stature and a dark-haired, blue-eyed countenance like Christian's. The only other certainty was that his father had departed when Christian was just a toddler. Beyond these rudimentary details, Christian remained in the dark about his father's life. One day, while occupying his usual spot in the restaurant, Christian awaited Mia's appearance with his customary anticipation. Instead, another employee emerged through the back door, a waiter who had previously witnessed Mia's interactions with Christian. Regretfully, he conveyed that Mia was indisposed that day and might be absent for some time. With a rueful expression, he handed over a plate of food prepared according to Mia's instructions. Although disappointed, Christian accepted the meal graciously and departed. He returned the following day, hopeful to reunite with Mia, but once more, it was the Levain waiter who delivered his sustenance. This pattern continued for the ensuing days. Christian's arrivals coincided with the Levain waiter's appearances, while Mia remained conspicuously absent. Despite the food's unwavering delectability, Christian yearned for Mia's congenial presence and her consoling words. The sole individual ignorant of this transition was the figure of authority, the manager by the name of Levi. Curiously, just at that juncture, he chose to step outside for a smoke break, remaining unaware of the shift occurring in Christian's routine. Upon seeing an abandoned plate of food and Christian loitering nearby, his anger erupted like a dormant volcano suddenly awakened. His voice reverberated through the air as he directed his fury first at the bewildered waiter. Caught off guard, the waiter stuttered an explanation, mentioning that Christian was acquainted with Mia. Levi's gaze hardened as he scrutinized Christian. "I remember you, young man. What did I tell you before?" he thundered, the force of his words unrestrained. "And you decided to defy me, didn't you?" Max, the waiter, attempted to placate Levi. "Levi, please, let's handle this calmly. The boy is just a child." Max's attempt at calming the situation was met with a dismissive response. "Do you value your job, Max? If you do, then return to your post and focus on your responsibilities." Though Max disagreed, he recognized the risk of losing his job at this juncture in his life. He couldn't afford that. From then on, Levi enforced a strict ban on offering food to the boy. When Mia returned to work and learned of the recent events, she implored Levi and even offered to cover the cost of the food herself. Reluctantly, Levi relented, stating, "Fine, you can give him leftovers. But only once a week. This is the final limit." Mia concluded her narration of Christian's story to Oliver, who seemed profoundly affected. As his gaze shifted to Christian, a sense of resolve began to swell within him. Just then, the manager, Levi, approached, observing Mia and Oliver conversing. He addressed them with a touch of sarcasm, "Are you planning to place an order?" Mia hastily rose, hoping to divert Levi's attention from Christian. Levi approached them, his arms folded defensively. Spotting Christian lingering in the corner, Levi's patience reached its breaking point. He spoke with a cold finality, "That's it, Mia. I've had enough. I warned you before." Mia pleaded, desperation in her voice. "Levi, please, reconsider. I'll make sure he doesn't come here again." Levi remained resolute, shaking his head. A smirk tugged at his lips as he taunted them both. "Who do you think you are, anyway? Seated at the tables as if you were esteemed guests." Oliver had been largely ignoring Levi's presence, his attention now gradually turning towards him. He lifted his head slowly, meeting Levi's gaze. "Levi, I'd suggest considering a more measured approach," Oliver suggested calmly. Levi's eyebrow quirked in surprise at the audacious response. "Oliver, are you serious about wanting to keep your job here? Do you remember how desperately you begged for this position when you first joined us? Has that memory faded so quickly? Why are you behaving like you're the owner of this place?" Levi's tone betrayed a growing unease. Oliver couldn't suppress a faint smile at the irony underlying Levi's last comment. He responded, his voice steady, "Apologies for any misunderstanding, but it appears you are mistaken. I am, indeed, the proprietor of this establishment." Rising from his seat, Oliver locked eyes with Levi, his smile evolving into a more serious expression. "It seems you're unhappy. You're welcome to complete your shift, or you're free to depart now. Rest assured, your compensation will be taken care of, regardless." Levi let out a dismissive laugh, accompanied by a muttered barrage of derogatory comments. However, Oliver paid him no heed. Instead, his attention shifted to Mia, who shook her head in amazement and grinned. "I can't believe you did that. You're quite the actor, keeping up this ruse for so long." Later that evening, Oliver approached his father, ready to share a significant decision about his life. He communicated his intention to move out and secure his own apartment. Curious about the sudden resolution, Henry inquired, "What prompted this decision? Have you met someone?" His playful smile hinted at a possible romantic connection. Oliver chuckled, responding, "Indeed, I have encountered someone. In fact, I've met two people." Henry was left somewhat puzzled as Oliver retreated to his room, his laughter echoing faintly. However, Henry had confidence in his son's maturity and respected his need for privacy. He trusted that Oliver's actions were well considered, and he didn't press for a full explanation. The following morning, Oliver woke up early, feeling rejuvenated and full of enthusiasm. On this day, there was no reason to conceal his lavish sedan, so he parked it directly in front of the restaurant. As the staff recognized his car and comprehended that he was the actual owner of the establishment, their astonishment was palpable. They admired Oliver's ability to seamlessly blend in and were particularly impressed by the astute questions he posed to them. They realized that he was a bona fide entrepreneur, wholly dedicated to his responsibilities. Summoning all the employees together, Oliver made a significant announcement: Mia would assume the role of the restaurant's new manager. Mia was taken aback, the prospect of becoming a manager exceeding her wildest aspirations. Uncertain about the role's responsibilities, she hesitated. Oliver had to persuade her, assuring her of his guidance through every aspect of the position. With his support, Mia eventually embraced the proposal. Christian's visits to the restaurant ceased, as he was no longer in need. He had secured a comfortable apartment for himself. Mia and Oliver extended a visit to Christian's mother, engaging in a lengthy conversation about Christian's circumstances. Expressing empathy, they discussed her situation and pledged support for her rehabilitation process. Concurrently, they offered to care for her sons while she was undergoing treatment. At first, she harbored skepticism, wary of their intentions and their potential role in her children's lives. Oliver enveloped Christian's mother in an embrace, offering her comforting words and encouraging trust in their plans. He recognized the transformative influence of a nurturing environment and quality education. It was his earnest intention to prevent Christian and his brother from enduring life on the streets as they grew older. A trip to the barbershop revealed that both Christian and Evan had head lice. The most effective solution was to shave their heads. During the process, Christian's birthmark became visible, resembling the same mark Oliver bore on his own forehead. This revelation brought a heartfelt smile to Oliver's face. With Oliver's support, Christian and Evan resumed their schooling. Oliver assumed the responsibility of transporting them to and from school daily. This routine would soon become a part of Henry's life, as he was expecting to become a father himself within 3 months. The culmination of these efforts was a grand celebration at the Pine Tree restaurant to commemorate the birth of Oliver Jr. The entire staff enthusiastically participated in the festivities. Christian, Evan, and their mother Bella, who had successfully completed her rehabilitation journey and maintained sobriety for 4 months, joined the celebration a bit late. As the guests took their seats, Bella entered the room, her arms adorned with a vibrant bouquet of balloons. Mia and Oliver exchanged surprised glances as they noticed the slogans on the t-shirts worn by Bella and her sons. Christian and Evan's shirts bore the message, "Proud new uncle." "It's a boy." Bella's shirt elicited laughter from the attendees with its playful declaration, "Go ahead and get into trouble. Auntie is here." Amid the exchange of warm embraces and infectious laughter, the atmosphere transformed into a joyous and heartwarming dinner celebration. Positioned in a quiet corner, Oliver observed the lively dance floor with a contented smile. The only other person not joining the dance was his father, Henry. He approached Oliver, their eyes meeting in a moment of profound connection. A smile played on Henry's lips as he shook Oliver's hand and spoke with a knowing gleam in his eyes. "Oliver, you continue to impress me." Henry's words were accompanied by a proud smile. "I'm truly proud of the man you've become and the company you choose to keep." Just then, Levi emerged from the kitchen, carrying a tray of glasses. His gaze flickered toward Oliver, who responded with a reassuring nod that seemed to alleviate Levi's concern. Across the room, Oliver's wife, Mia, caught his eye. Her expression held a blend of surprise and genuine warmth. Even Henry had a quizzical look, silently prompting Oliver to explain. "I'm giving him another chance, Dad. I'm planning to move him to another restaurant soon." "I believe he's learned a valuable lesson," Oliver clarified. Over time, Henry transitioned into retirement, and Oliver assumed control of the family restaurant business. With a fair and emotionally balanced approach, Oliver treated his employees with respect, always extending a helping hand to those in need. His unwavering loyalty to the principles of his father's legacy earned him the admiration and love of his staff. During a subsequent year, when the nation faced lockdown and the restaurant industry suffered profound losses, Oliver's employees rallied together in solidarity. Organizing a takeout service and volunteering extra hours, they united to support Oliver's establishment. Notably, it was Levi, now a dedicated team member, who spearheaded this initiative. "Good deeds have a way of returning unexpectedly," Levi mused, echoing a sentiment that had become a guiding principle for all who had the privilege of working alongside Oliver. Thank you for watching and listening to my story. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something from it. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more stories like this. And don't forget to share your thoughts and feedback in the comments below. See you next time.